This is the Murray Valley Walking Trail, Bookmark Creek Walks. It's a really nice track. It follows a small creek through some wetlands all the way from 21st Street down to Railroad Avenue. It's not overly long. I think it's 2.5 kilometres. Takes you about an hour or so. It's not a hard walk, but there are some obstacles that you have to get across, and a good pair of walking shoes, and watch out for snakes, especially in summer. This shows where the 1956 flood level was, and we're quite a long way away from the river, so it came up a long way and covered a lot of area. That's my wife in the distance down there. There's a little bit of seating provided on this trail, but not a lot. But it is a very nice part. Great for bird watchers, plenty of birds. Track gets a little bit rough in places. Going back 2 months ago, this whole area was underwater. Now the floods have gone back. The river's back to its normal pool level. But the change to the areas is amazing. Lots of new trees, lots of new growth, and every tree that was there before is looking really healthy. This track is maintained by one of the local action groups. They've recently come along, widened the trail slightly. They're improving it all the time, but it's nicely reed lined at the moment as well. We usually follow the trail along the creek all the way down to Railroad Avenue, and then come back the other way along the floodbank, so it gives you a nice circular route. Due to the floods, a lot of the old dead trees have come down, but they've come along and cleared the track. Now and then the path opens up, the reeds disappear, and you have access to the creek. Normally you can see the creek for most of the length, but because of the recent high water, the reeds have overgrown a lot of it. But over the next few months, a lot of the reeds will actually die, and we'll have access to the water again. These new river reds grow back so quickly after the floods, it's amazing. Most of the trees were taken from here and logged over the years, but now, as in a lot of areas, they're starting to revegetate the area, and within a few years this will be a beautiful place. This path has been widened considerably since I was last on it, in an effort to make it accessible for more and more people. These bush tracks close to towns are very, very popular. It brings the wildlife closer to the towns as well, so more people have access to it. Track's just getting a little bit narrower now, back to the old track. Everyone talks about the need to preserve pristine areas, but at the same time it's equally as important to rehabilitate areas closer to the cities, bring the wildlife back. These areas are really good for reducing the pollution in water levels. Runoff from roads and streets goes into here. The reeds take all the nutrients out, and when it finally goes back into the river again, it's much cleaner. Nature's way of purifying. As I said, the floods have started to recede. There's still some water left. The birds in the distance there are eating the last of the fish, shrimps, shellfish, yabbies, yams. There was enough water here, so even once it's gone, the trees will survive for at least 2 years without any rainfall. Over the next couple of years, they'll probably improve this section of the track as well. But sometimes I think it's nice to leave these small, narrow, winding trails between the trees. It sort of brings you back to nature. It's what I really enjoy about bushwalking. One of many signs dotted along the path warning you about snakes. We've only ever seen a couple of snakes on this track, but you can't be too careful. Long pants and good quality shoes, always a good idea. And make a lot of noise. Snakes hear the noise and tend to move away. If you try to be quiet, they're more likely just to sit there and you could accidentally step on one. So don't be scared to make a bit of noise, talk to your friends, stomp your feet a bit. The snake will hear that, they'll disappear before you even get there. This is one of the things I like. A long time ago this tree blew over. You can see the roots there. It's blown over, still surviving. And these new shoots are growing up almost as new trees. Nature's amazing. Still some water left there, plenty of birds. They don't like me too much though. And there's some ibis in the distance. So we zoom in a little bit on them. Another plaque telling you about the birds. You can hear the plovers in the distance. And this is our trail, getting a little bit overgrown now. People don't realise that most cities and towns have these tracks very close. Sometimes right through the middle of a city you can find a wildlife sanctuary. It's just a matter of looking, going through maps, talking to your friends, looking on Facebook, and usually you can find out where they are. Kids absolutely love them. They're free, bring your picnic lunch, the kids will have a ball. The remains of the flooding. A few trees starting to block the path now. Easy to step over. Not so easy if you've got a pram though. This is more your typical floodplain. They have started replanting. And in a few more years, it'll be completely rehabilitated. The track is starting to widen out again. They're obviously improving it from both ends. I'm hoping they keep the middle bit as is though. It's more natural. You can hear the parrots. Old history, looks like an old boiler or something. It's been here for as long as I can remember. It's probably been here for 100 years and will probably still be here in 100 more. They made things to last in the old days. The creek's starting to widen up a little bit more now. These areas are great for fishing, catching yabbies, or just sitting and watching the wildlife. It's funny to think that I would have been standing in water just a couple of months ago. It went back down so fast. Most of the tall reeds have gone now, and you can view the creek almost for the rest of the journey. It really is a very nice track. These old trees, don't chop them down. They play an important part. They're nesting areas for parrots. People tend to cut them up and use them for barbecues, but then the wildlife's got nowhere to live. So leave them alone. And in the distance there, you can see the road bridge. That's the end of the path. That's Railroad Avenue. There we have a pair of nesting swans. And you've got to remember, these are wild. And I've caught up with Michelle, my wife. She accompanies me on most of these walking trips. We're at the other end of the walking trail now, and that picture shows it what it was like in 1900s. Now surprisingly, that bridge you can see there was actually underwater in 1956 when the big floods hit the River Murray. One thing I should note is I'm not a naturalist. I enjoy nature, but I don't know the names of the birds and I don't know the names of all the plants. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy it though. A bit of a stark contrast. In the distance, you can see the rehabilitated wetlands. Before us, you can see where nothing's ever been done. We're at the end of the first part. We're going to be turning around and going back along the flood banks. If you follow the road in front of us, that takes you back into the centre of Renmark. It's surprising to think we're only half a kilometre away from the post office itself, or 100 metres away from the first houses, and just on the left over the flood bank they've got the hospital, and all this is so close to town. It looks like a completely different world when you get a little bit away from the creeks. The average rainfall in Renmark is only about 220 millimetres a year. So if it wasn't for the creeks and the occasional floods and the irrigation, there would be literally nothing here. Oh, a few trees obviously. Surprise, surprise, they've brought up an inflatable water theme park to Renmark, right next to the nature trail. Everything is just so close together in these country towns. for over 2,000 kilometres from Queensland right through these not take out excess water. They're returning a lot of water now to the system, which is good. And these areas will be there forever for people to enjoy if we only look after it. And this is the return track. You can either follow the path along the fence line, or you can follow the roadway down there through the heart of the wetland. You can see a seating there and another plaque telling you about the wildlife, and you can see the floodplains in the distance. I like walking back along the flood bank. It's a little bit higher, it gives you a better view of everything. I hope you enjoyed the path. Nice to see you walking along here one day. Thank you.